Yo, today I pose you one simple question. Is it possible for bad movies to have good music? This is actually more common than you might think. While I looked up on YouTube at least and didn't manage to find that many videos kind of with that tagline, I looked up on search engines and did manage to find a couple of articles kind of relating to movies that most people consider kind of bad, trashy, or they just don't like. But they do actually admit they have pretty good soundtracks. Stuff like movies, some of them I haven't heard of, some of them I have, such as I Am Sam, Wicker Park, Open Season, and Twilight. All of these movies had some kind of relevant part of criticism, but people seem to kind of enjoy the soundtracks. And I'll admit, I am not kind of above that. If you check my music libraries, I frequently kind of create playlists or listen to songs from TV, movies, or even video games. We've got one. I've got a playlist that has both the songs from Portal as well as ones from Mirror's Edge and even one that's kind of a parody from Minecraft, which is just kind of fun. But yeah, I've got several that kind of relate to movies, such as Polar Express, the song, as well as another song from Polar Express, When Christmas Comes to Town, and the Michael Bublé cover of Spider-Man. But ultimately, I'm talking today about movies that people consider bad, but that I actually think have a pretty good soundtrack. And for me, I've got three of those that I don't actually think are that bad soundtrack. I actually think they're pretty good songs. The first one was Life is a Highway by Rascal Flatts, which was linked to the kind of early Pixar work Cars. Now, I'm not saying that Cars is a bad movie. People seem to enjoy it at the time, and it is kind of, well, it doesn't climb to the heights of something like Toy Story or uh, Inside Out or even Up. Cars was a good film for Pixar, and I do think that it has a pretty good soundtrack with Rascal Flatts' Life is a Highway. I'll admit I didn't hear it until quite late on, but once I listened to it, I found it was a pretty groovy tune. Another one on the list is another one from Pixar, which was Cars 2. Now, pretty much everyone you're ever going to meet, unless they're little kids, most people think Cars 2 isn't that good. And I'll admit the movie isn't perfect. I've only seen kind of parts of it, but most people consider it to be not good. But that being said, while the movie may have tanked, I actually think that the soundtrack, Collision of Worlds, performed by Brad Paisley and Robbie Williams, I actually think it's a pretty good tune. I heard about it, I listened to it, and it's still in my library. I still think that Collision of Worlds is a pretty good song, kind of with Brad Paisley and Robbie Williams comparing the difference between Americans and Brits, and admits while they have their differences, they also are not that different after all, which I think is it's a pretty good tune. Yeah, two others that have made their way into my library was while the 2004 version of Thunderbirds for me is a guilty pleasure. I do understand why people don't consider it that good a movie, but when I've seen people kind of review it on YouTube, while they admit they think the movie is trash, the one thing that they seem to say that good that came out in the movie was kind of busted soundtrack for it. Which, if you listen to it, it's a pretty good soundtrack for the movie, incorporating the classic theme, but also giving us the kind of teen rock of the early 2000s, which it's a pretty good song. The last one I particularly want to talk about of bad movies with good songs is Suicide Squad. Like Thunderbirds, for me, Suicide Squad is a personal favourite. I can understand why people don't like it, but for me, I thought it was a fairly good movie, but other people didn't seem to think so. But its soundtrack, Heathens by 21 Pilots, it's a pretty good song if you listen to it. Once again, it captures the kind of rock, but also the kind of rap stylings of the 2010s, and it does it fairly well. So, in answer to my kind of opening question, can bad movies have good songs or good soundtrack? In short answer, yes. Yeah. Mo- movie makers often spend a long time on their craft to make sure they get it just perfect. And when a movie comes out and people say, oh god, it's trash, often one thing that they overlook is the music. And while music may not be vastly important to all films, it's, it does play a huge part. And I think it's worth acknowledging when people actually do something right and when bad movies actually are given quite good soundtracks or songs. So, yeah. There were 4 movies that I actually thought had pretty decent soundtracks, and I'm sure there are going to be more in the future. If you have any other suggestions below of bad movies that had good songs or good soundtracks, feel free to leave them down below. It'll be a good discussion point. Until then, see ya.